Hello, this is My Sweet Mess, and welcome to my kitchen, where every week I make a mess trying new recipes in the pursuit of something sweet. This week I am excited to try a new to me recipe for Cream Cheese Danishes from Cakes Cottage, and I'll leave the original recipe link in the show notes below. Before we even touch the mixer, let's talk about mise en place. Mise en place is a French term for putting in place or everything in its place. It just means that you're taking a look at your ingredient list to make sure you have everything. You go ahead and you measure it out, and then you look at your recipe steps to make sure you understand what the recipe entails. It helps make baking way less chaotic and sets you up for success. Trust me, after you've realized too late that you're an egg short because you made a big breakfast or you can't find your pastry brush, you'll definitely add this step to your baking routine. And I've done both of those things. We are starting with the ultimate shortcut hero, using pre-made crescent roll dough. The recipe calls for using 2 cans of crescent rolls. So when I went to buy the ingredients, I saw something I had never seen before: crescent dough sheet. Now, because I want to stay true to the original recipe, I will use a can of the regular crescent rolls, and then for my second can, I'm going to use the dough sheets. They are the exact same size, they weigh the same, so I expect to get the same size and number of danishes in the end, but I'm curious to see if it's easier to use one over the other. So follow along and we'll find out together. Now that my ingredients are prepped and measured, let's prep our equipment. Now I've got my oven preheating. I've also got my largest cutting board, which I'll use to roll out my dough, my kitchen ruler, and a nice sharp kitchen knife to help cut the dough into strips. And I'll set that aside till I need it. Then I will line 2 baking sheets with parchment paper. I've been liking the scrunch method for lining my baking sheets, so I'm going to keep going with that. So the dough sheet will go on the pan with the smooth bottom, and the crescent rolls will go on the pan with the bumpy bottom. And that'll help me keep it straight. Now that my equipment is prepped and ready, let's move on to the bake. Let me get the cutting board, knife, and ruler that we set aside earlier, and the crescent roll dough. Now I know I am a grown person, but opening this tube makes me flinch every time. Now that it's open, let's plop that dough onto the cutting board and unroll the whole thing. Because this is the crescent roll dough, I will pinch and smush the diagonal cut shut with my fingers like it was meant to be a solid sheet all along. Just for added insurance, I'm also going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. Now that we have one sheet, I will give this a sprinkle of sugar and get to measuring. I am looking for a 1 inch by 8 inch strip. My ruler is about 1 inch and the dough is about 8 inches long. So using the side of my ruler, I'll make cuts down the dough to get my 8 by 1 inch strips. Once all of my strips are cut, it's time to twist. So I'll gently grab the ends of the dough strip and twist them in opposite directions like I'm wringing out a towel. Then I'll swirl the twisted rope around itself into a loose circle. It's going to look a little like a pastry snail shell. Be patient with yourself. For some reason, the twisting was really tricky with the crescent roll dough. Even though I smushed those perforated lines together, they still sort of separated when I was twisting, so just be careful and take your time with it. There's no rush here. Now that all of my little pastry snail shells are shaped, I'm going to use my impeccably clean hands. You could also use a small spoon to seal up the gaps and make a flat well in the middle of the Danish. This part is tedious, but it's really important because if there are gaps in the dough, then the filling will leak out. Now these definitely have a homemade look to them, and that can be a bit discouraging. It was for me, but I trust the process and know that I'm doing my best. Now that the crescent roll dough spirals are on their baking sheet lined with parchment paper, I'm going to do the exact same process with the crescent dough sheet, minus the pinching of the perforation. I'm going to unroll the dough sheet. I'll measure my 8 by 1 inch strips, and then same thing, twist in opposite directions like wringing out a towel, and then swirl that twisted rope around itself to make a pastry snail shell. Then we'll make the flat well in the middle of the Danish and close up some of those gaps in the dough. I will admit the dough sheet was easier to use for this part. I'm not sure if it's because I was fighting the perforated lines with the crescent roll dough, or if it's because I made the crescent sheet Danishes second, but it's something to consider when you're shopping, that the dough sheet does seem to be a little bit more user-friendly. Now that my crescent roll dough Danishes and my crescent sheet Danishes are on their baking sheets lined with parchment paper, it is time to make the filling. So I'll just set these aside for later. I have my hand mixer at the ready. In my mixing bowl, I will add in the softened cream cheese, sugar, vanilla, lemon juice, and a little bit of sour cream, and mix that together until it is smooth and creamy. Now that my cream cheese filling is ready, let's get our prepared Danishes and bring them back over. And then I'll scoop about a tablespoon of the cream cheese filling into each Danish. I'm eyeballing this because, as I mentioned, my Danishes are looking a little homemade, which means they're not as consistently shaped as I would like. So I'm adjusting the amount of filling to the size of the Danish. That's just what I'm doing. If your Danishes look a little bit more consistently sized and shaped, then you should be fine adding that full tablespoon to each one. Now I am excited about the cream cheese Danish, but I know my family prefers a fruit filling as well as a cream cheese filling with their Danishes. So I have some strawberry and raspberry jam that I'm going to put on top of that cream cheese. Now you could either use a preserve, a jelly, a pie filling, even fresh fruit with some lemon and sugar to make like a syrup if you wanted to. I have jam at the house, so that's just what I'm going to use. And again, I'm eyeballing the amount of jam that I use based on the size of the Danish, and knowing that I want to be able to taste the cream cheese and the jam. If you want to just taste the fruit filling, then put a whole lot on there. If you just want a little bit, then adjust accordingly. I like a medium amount, so that's what I'm going to use. Once all of my Danishes are properly filled, I'm going to get a little bit of melted butter and lightly brush the edges of the dough just to make sure that they have a nice golden color when they're done. Now that my Danishes are filled and properly buttered, I will place these in a 350-degree Fahrenheit oven for about 12 to 15 minutes until the edges are just golden. You'll want to err on the side of underbaked because once these are pulled from the oven, they're going to sit on those baking trays for another 10 or 15 minutes. They'll keep cooking while they're on the trays, so just something to keep in mind as you're checking your Danishes. Now that my 12 to 15 minutes are up, I'm going to pull my Danishes from the oven, let them cool on the trays for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then I'm going to put them on a cooling rack and let them cool completely. While they are cooling on the cooling rack, it is time to mix up our icing. In a bowl, I will add powdered sugar, a splash of milk, and a little bit of melted butter, and stir that until it's pourable but not runny. You may need to add a little bit more milk to the powdered sugar depending on your preferred consistency. I ended up needing to add a little bit more, but you may be fine with what the original recipe asks for. So it's been about 20 minutes or so, and my danishes are completely cool. I'm going to take my icing. I'm going to spoon it over my danishes. You can either put your icing in a Zip-Top bag and snip the corner, or you can do what I'm doing, which is taking my fork and just lightly drizzling the icing over the danishes like a carefree icing wizard. I'm going to drizzle, zigzag, scribble, making sure my danishes look fully covered with the icing. Once all of my icing's been used, I'm going to just leave them on the cooling rack and set them over to the side to let that icing dry a little bit. It'll make it easier to plate these and serve them to my family. It's been about 15 minutes. And look at this cutie. This is a beautiful homemade cream cheese Danish, and I cannot believe I made this without breaking a sweat or overthinking the dough. I cannot believe how quickly and easily this came together. All right, time for a bite. Oh, and it is wonderful. Flaky, creamy. You get a little bit of tang from that cream cheese filling and a little bit of salt from the crescent rolls. It is a wonderfully balanced, flavorful bite. I am so impressed with these, and they will definitely be a staple on my brunch menu going forward. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below letting me know your favorite type of Danish. Thank you so much for being with me here today. And remember, trying new things is messy, but the end result can be pretty sweet. Have a great rest of your day. Bye now.